And I also found out from my questioning that he has been meditating since he was in his 20s. And I think he's now in his 60s. I'm not sure, but he seems like he's that around that age. Or 70s, maybe 70s. And he said all his life he's meditated. He said at one point he was also a Christian, but he was a lukewarm Christian, and he just went there to socialize at the time, because at that time he didn't really know what church was about, and he just never got really into it. And he says that he's meditated, and he's gotten out of his body before, and when he first began meditating, he started to see a lot of negative spirits, ghosts and monsters and past karmic entities that came to bother him while he's meditating. So he went through that, many years of that, and he said he started to talk to the spirits, and he would grant, maybe negotiate and appease them so that they can go away and leave him alone, let him meditate and reach a certain enlightenment, so to speak. And he said that he's meditated so many years that at one point he got finally to the point where when he closed his eyes, when he was meditating, that all he saw was pure bright light, and that he never saw a single dark entity again since then. And even when he goes to sleep, he doesn't see them anymore. He's gotten himself to that point where he's just light. And I asked him, I said, since you've talked to the spirits and you believe in ghosts, have you ever talked to God? Have you ever talked to the Creator? And he couldn't answer me, and he was fumbling around, but finally when he did answer me, he said that because I said that I talked to the Creator, and he said if you or anyone, basically he's saying anyone is talking to the Creator, they should be very cautious, and that this is a dangerous route, and that he was basically telling me that he didn't talk to the Creator, he never talked to the Creator, and if anyone else had done that they should be very suspicious and be cautious, because he didn't believe that the Creator would allow himself to speak to all of his creations. Direct line. He didn't believe it. I don't think he believes it, because he never directly answered me. And it seemed like he was skirting the question. And also because he never piped up when there was a teacher there that was doing the lecture that day, and he was also in the conversation, and he told me what he thought was an experience that he had when he talked to the Creator, where the Creator talked to him. And when the host who is hosting the Tao classes, he's also he's the meditator, and he never spoke about his experience with the Creator ever. And he never even put an input after he heard what the other guy said. So the other guy was saying that one time because he likes to bicycle, he said he put it on his car. When he took it off, he forgot to lock up the wheel for some reason, and he said he going up the hill was fine, but coming down the hill, if you don't lock up your wheels, it's very dangerous, and the wheels may fall off. So he said at that point, when he got on the top of the hill, for some reason he had the inclination, the sudden urge to look at the tire where it's connecting to his bike. And he realized that he needed to lock it up. And he said he knew in his heart that that was a divine intervention and that God had spoken to him, because he wouldn't have done it himself. It wasn't logical for him to do it because he wasn't even in his mind. So he said that was his example of how God spoke to him. And I said to these gentlemen, I said, I have a guru, this Indian Ramana Maharshi that I absolutely loved. And whenever people even people he doesn't know, he never met, come knocking on his door, asking questions, wanting to speak with him, he says he's 100%, 24 hours available to anyone who wants to speak to him or ask questions. And one time a man visited, I think from a foreign country or from far away, and he came at 11 o'clock at night wanting to speak with Ramana Maharshi, the Indian guru. And he got turned away by his disciples because Ramana was asleep at that time. When he learned of this the next morning, he was adamant. He had told them before that if anyone looked for him, to wake him up. But they disregarded his request for his own good, because there's so many people that come to see him. He was very busy and gets tired. They turned him away. They turned the man away. When he learned of this, he opted to sleep outside, and he continued for 3 consecutive days sleeping outside on a mat or something, and in order for him to be available to anyone who wants to see him. That was the amount of humbleness he had, and the amount of compassion he had towards anyone who sought him out. And every time they served food, because they serve free food for anyone who comes to the ashram, that he served them personally. He also served, and he also prepared the food with the people in the back, and he got himself a bowl of food always last. He would serve everyone first, and he would get his portion last. So that was the demonstration of how he lived his life. And even on his deathbed, when he was dying, somebody was pushing through all the people who was in prayer for him, chanting for him, and in silence for him. One man was pushing through all the people, saying he had a question. He needed to talk to Ramana Maharshi. And they said, please let him have peace. He's on his deathbed. But Ramana said, please let him in. If he wants to speak with me, I shall speak with him. That was the amount of dedication he had towards anyone, not just his disciples, but anyone who sought him. And animals alike, kids from the down on the bottom of the hill where he lived, climbed up these hills by themselves just to stare at him, because he had this beautiful glow, and almost like God himself, that the presence of him made monkeys that were fighting originally instantly, as he walked by, stop fighting. He just had that energy, and animals and kids just loved him, and people of all walks of life loved him, because he loved everyone unconditionally in that way. And when I did my ayahuasca, where we can delve into the spirit realm, I asked myself, who do I want to see? And he was the one that popped up, and I wanted to see him. And when I got there in Peru, his picture was in amongst the bones and the crystals they put in the center of the sweat, kind of like a sweat lodge, and where we were doing our ayahuasca ceremony, he was in the center along with all these other things and the feathers and all these other things that were there. And I asked them, what's his picture doing here? Do you often have his picture here? And they said, no, this is the first time. And someone who was working there felt that he wanted to put him there. And even the shaman didn't know who Ramana was. So he actually physically appeared at my request. And that's the kind of guru he is. And if he's like that, and if our parents are willing to do things for us that, they're willing to open the door for us in the middle of the night when we come knocking, and they're willing to put their life on the line for us, and this guru is willing to do us, don't you think that the creator of all that's good is willing to be there for us if whenever we decide to call upon him, the Father? I use that as an example of how even our parents, most of our parents would go to the extent of being there for us, and the guru who is willing, he's a human being willing to do that for us, how much more does our Father, our Holy Father in heaven, would do for us if we just called upon him? And why would you believe in ghosts and spirits, but you don't believe in the Holy Father, in the Creator? Why do you think the ghosts are willing to talk to us, but the Creator wouldn't?